I'm Yoshi Lomax, superstar attorney at law and fugitive.
So, you're the famous Yoshi Lomax.
Probably more infamous. I'm on the run from the federal government for crimes that I didn't commit.
Gentlemen, I'm Deputy U.S. Marshal Sharon Starr. I'll be taking things from here.
Not to mention being on the hit list of at least 3 of Miami's major crime bosses.
I wanted to apologize in person for leaving so abruptly last night.
Welcome back.
That's Vladimir Kuznetsov, a Russian crime boss. He's been a suspect in over a dozen missing person cases.
I mean, I didn't get here to be this successful for doing things the American way.
I need a list of the jury for my case with Hanju.
Oh, really? What's that worth to you? Oh, my God, you're such a...
Mr. Santana is to be released upon processing.
So what do you know about Sheldon Chisholm?
What do you want to know about him?
I really need to know if you're going to take my case. I don't have time to play, Miss Lomax.
Money is not a problem. You know anything about his case?
It's being handled by agents in my field office.
I've learned that in this game of life, in order to win,
Ready to dance?
you gotta play dirty. You might look at me and see a beautiful, confident, successful woman.
Congratulations, counselor. Yet another win.
But underneath, I'm flawed. I'm broken. And I'm scared. So I have no choice but to run until I can find a way to clear my name.
Miss Lomax is now considered a fugitive of the United States. Catching fugitives is my business, which makes her my suspect. You and your associates are relieved.
Look, she killed one of our own.
But I will not give up.
All right, people, listen up. Get a picture of Miss Lomax out there so the public knows what she looks like.
I will not give in.
Okay. People, we got a game plan. Let's break and execute.
And I will not get caught.
Time to go hunt.
Chastity, the social media influencer and rockstar killer. Maria, from Miami. And Lucy, aspiring actress. Sydney, hip-hop lover and writer, so I'm told. And my quiet one, Mackenzie. Well, hello ladies. I'm Bella. I have a question for everyone. Why do you think rich men cheat? Control.
I'm going home.
Don't go.
Attention.
You bring the total package to the table. You just need the right friends.
Are you my friend?
No, but you can be mine.
And power.
I stuck my neck out for you.
Thank you.
And I pulled the strings to get you onto this show.
Take all 3 away, and he becomes desperate.
So, what's with the apples?
Well, it represents knowledge, wisdom, beauty, and power. Here, you will learn how to gain ownership of all.
I'm gonna send you the money for the ticket, and I already have your room set up at the Palms.
You do that, babe.
Because once you have possession of the apple, no man alive will have power over you.
You make it sound so easy.
Oh, it's not easy.
Brett, look, I'm sorry.
Save it! Save it!
I get no auditions.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
I get no callbacks.
I really need to get upstairs. They stole all my money.
I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but you're no better than the rest of us.
Right now, they have a do not disturb until this afternoon. If they call you,
Great.
How is he gonna call me if he doesn't?
If not, charge it to the game.
Make no mistake, ladies. In order to succeed in this game, you must be willing to play it out till the very end.
This business is all types of savage.
What are you doing?
But if you follow my blueprints, I guarantee you will become a millionaire within the next 3 years. Possibly way earlier. So, are you ready to take that step?
Another day, another dollar. Ain't about money, don't you holler. 100 miles and racing, and that money conversation been my only motivation, yeah.
Up, y'all, this is Rayon Lawrence.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Catherine Nunez, and you're watching Real Talk with the director and the counsel on the IE Network.
Real Talk.
Hey, I'm Gina Lou, and you're listening to Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hey, what's up? It's Logan Browning, and you're listening to Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
Real Talk.
Hi, this is Alana De La Garza, and you're listening to Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hi, I'm Diane Franklin from Better Off Dead and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. You're listening to Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
Hi, this is Monique Capri, and you are watching Real Talk with the director on Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, I'm Stormy Maya, and you are listening to Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
This is Vicky Judy. Orange is the new black, and I'm here with Real Talk.
Yo, what up? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio. Keep it locked.
Hi, I'm Trina Parks. You are listening to Real Talk Radio with the director. Hey, I'm Issa Rae, and you're watching Real Talk with the director on Dollhouse Radio.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Nothing more, nothing less. What's going on? Welcome to another edition of Real Talk with the director and the Jedi Council. I am the director. We'll be with you for the next 120 minutes or so, and Real Talk's brought to you each and every Monday by B2S Media. We broadcast live via the World Wide Web on youtube.com/IE Network TV and Facebook, aka Meta, the social network, and Twitter. So welcome back, another Monday. We appreciate y'all checking us out. Shout out to the chat room, everybody that's in there. We appreciate you, Joseph Tanner, everyone else who comes through. Say what up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash the like button, subscribe, and share this with your friends if you can. Why not? You know. So Monday the 23rd. January, it's a whole new year. We all know that. A lot of stuff going on. For the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be at least dedicating a small segment to what's going on with the Rust shooting accident. The case with Alec Baldwin was just the latest news is, you know, him, the armorer, and also one of the I believe it was one of the DPs, one of the I think the AD, first AD, they're being charged involuntary manslaughter. And so we're going to talk about that. I want to bring up, you know, like some, for the next few weeks, I'd like to bring onto our panel some, you know, people experience in all these different areas, because this is a very complicated situation, very tragic. At the end of the day, it's just a tragic situation where Miss Helena Hudgens was, you know, accidentally killed. And, you know, we want to discuss a little bit about that today. And, you know, get everybody's opinion on it. You know, that's what it is. We want to like-minded individuals who are filmmakers, such as myself, such as the people on my panel, you know, my co-hosts. And I know I'll share my experiences with firearms and weapons and guns. And, you know, maybe we can pose a couple of questions and answer some as well. The big question being, Who is responsible? Who's responsible? Is anyone responsible? Is it just clearly an accident? Who's responsible? And it's just our opinion, you know, and we'll go from there based on experiences and things like that. So that's one big thing. Sundance Film Festival is going on as well. I see a couple things that popped out to me with the Sundance Film Festival. I know there's a Brooke Shields documentary that's out that's called oh my God, what is it called again? It's the same name as her movie, something baby or something like that. But there's a documentary coming out that's out in yeah, you go, Pretty Baby. Thank you. Documentary out. I'm hearing it's catching a lot of interest. We'll say that. Saying it's pretty good. Also, the film that's really making a lot of noise at Sundance is the film called the magazine something. I'm just gotta bring up these things and get these names together. But my man Jonathan Majors, it's getting all types of rave reviews. And it's Magazine Dreams, I think it's called. New film. This is like people are calling this his Taxi Driver, So now to even be brought up in the same name as Taxi Driver and Joker and stuff like that, I mean, he must have been doing a bang up job in this movie, and I'm very anxious to see it. A couple of new films coming out in February. I can't wait to see, but I don't know, not really nothing coming out this month. So we'll just do the weekend recap, which pretty much is the same as last week. This for the weekend of January 20th through the 22nd. Brought to you by BoxOfficeMojo.com. Number 5 is A Man Called Otto. Made $8.8 million, bringing its total worldwide up to $55 million. We have Missing, $9.2 million. Right, that must have just came out. It just came out January 20th. So that just released. And then we have Megan. That's I call that the Living Doll 2.0. Event. All my Twilight Zone fans understand when I say that name. That is one of the famous episodes, one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone called The Living Doll. The doll's name was Talking Tina. This is like Talking Tina 2.0. Megan, 9.7 million over the weekend, brought its worldwide total up to 124 million. Not bad. Horror film. Puss in Boots, number 2, made another 11 million, brought its worldwide gross up to $297 million. That's not bad. That is not bad. Kids are getting out to the movies at least. And of course, Avatar: The Way of Water, another 20 million over this weekend, which brings the worldwide total over $2 billion. We pointed out last week that obviously internationally they're back outside like 100%. Not so much over here because that film only made, and I say only, it's still a lot of money, but it made only $598 million domestically. So most of the money, over 1.4 billion of that $2 billion came from international money, which is so we're not quite back outside yet, but it's all good. That's your weekend recap for this weekend. And yes, we'll get back to it. We got a guest tonight. We're blessed to have him. I'm gonna bring him in a moment, but first I'm gonna bring in my Jedi Council. Kev's on the way, but Ralph is here. So Ralph, what up, bro? You in the building?
What's up, everybody? Welcome. Hello. Hi.
Welcome back, bro.
Glad to be back.
Ralph been on vacation couple weeks, so it's all good. We had to hold it down without him. It's all good,
Yeah, man, I missed some good stuff while I was gone.
Yeah, it's wild, man, but it's all good, bro. Yeah, man, I wish you was here for the Rayon joint, bro. That would have been real cool.
I heard.
We're gonna get him back though. I actually might get him back for this topic here, because we're gonna be covering this topic periodically throughout the month and as things more develop. Because he, when he just did this new role, the new role he's doing for K9, I think they had to get like gun training and stuff like that. So I'd like to ask him, some questions on his end on how, because the bottom line is this, we'll get to it, the bottom line is safety on set when it comes to using guns, you know what I mean? So it's all about, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack with this Alec Baldwin thing, there's a lot. But we do have a guest who's going to be also giving us some insight just on safety. I worked with him before, in the past, and he's experienced guy with this stuff, prop master, and experience with he was in law enforcement, so he's very experienced when it comes to weapons and safety and stuff like that. So,
well, see, I got my own thought on this, and I still think I have the stance I always had. Alec Baldwin, and this is my personal view, Alec Baldwin should not be held responsible for this, because at the end of the day, he is an actor. There is absolutely no way, and I'm just blanking this. There's no way he would have known the difference between a live round and a dummy round. He wouldn't have known the difference unless he was someone that in his personal life dealt with guns, dealt with weapons. Then maybe he would. But let's take for sake of this that he doesn't. And what I think people keep seeing to forget is that when he tested that gun, all right, normally the actor tested the gun by him, at least I think the actor tested the gun by him, so they check every short, whatever. What if he would have actually did that and put the gun to his head? I mean, there are accidents like that have happened in the past. Eric, forget his last name, from TV show, did the exact same thing. He did not know the difference between the live. Matter of fact, take that even back further. They didn't even know the gun was loaded. And realistically speaking, unless you're a person that handles guns in your personal life, you don't know the difference between a gun that's live, that has rounds in it, and a gun that's empty. You don't know the difference because the gun is heavy.
Right? No, you won't. Yeah.
So on just that basis alone, and I've read some of the stuff, and they're saying, but he is not trained to know the difference between a live round and a dummy round. He doesn't know the difference. And then also, it is not his responsibility as the actor to make sure that the gun is loaded or unloaded. That's what you have that team for, the weapons specialist. That's what you have those for. Now, if you want to say that, well, he should have double checked it, under what basis are you basing it on? That the actor should have double checked it, because his job is to come in, grab the gun because the scene is ready to go, and go on the scene. He has no idea that the gun is loaded. So I don't think that he can be held responsible on that aspect. Now, if you want to sit there and say that Alec Baldwin, as the executive producer of this film, should have made sure that the people around him knew what they were doing, then that's a different circumstance.
Right. That's a whole nother, and that's actually, I was looking that up and reading some stuff, and we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. I see Kev is in the green room. I'm bringing Kev in now. What up, Kev? Welcome back, bro. And we're gonna go ahead and bring in our guest. Bringing our guest for the evening, help us out on the panel tonight, my man. Like I said, this gentleman, he has tons of experience with this type of situations, and good dude. We worked with him on my first feature. Kev was with me. He was my line producer, and this gentleman was our technical advisor and prop master. So I'd like to bring in Rich Kenney right now. Everybody, welcome Rich Kenney to the show. Rich, what's up, my brother?
Guys.
Welcome.
What's up, bro?
How you doing? What's up, Kevin? How are you, man?
Yo, man, we good, bro. I appreciate you.
Long time no see. Long time,
man. Too long.
Too long,
man. Rich, I appreciate you joining us. It was kind of last minute. I got at you, and I appreciate you, jumping on and share your experiences with us. Like I said, we worked on my first feature, The Trade-Off. Together.
One of the favorite things I ever did.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was a great experience. We have Rich with us. He was our technical advisor and our prop master. Little wardrobe too. Brought in some.
Yeah.
You gotta wear, and then he acted in it as well. So you gotta wear a lot of hats when you're doing Independence, man.
You have the small independent movies. You got to work your butt off.
Yeah, you gotta work your butt. You gotta wear all the different hats, man. We was, I was directed, and we was doing everything. Crafty, breaking in everything. Kev, I don't even want to give him. He had so many darn hats.
Oh my God, Kev was running around like a lunatic through everything.
Yeah, he was. He sure was, man. But that's how we get things done, man. But it's good to have you here. But now,
thank you.
When even back then, and this was back in like 2004, something like that, when we did the trade off, something like that.
Yeah.
Even back then, you had already had a lot of experience on set. With props and things like that. So
with gun props, uniforms, shields, guns.
Yep.
They all have to be taken care of very seriously for various reasons. Uniforms, you don't want them disappearing from set, and then someone is impersonating a police officer doing a home invasion or something silly like that.
Yep.
Yeah, the guns for obvious reasons, safety reasons, when they're on set. There's a lot of hats that go involved in being a prop master.
Yeah.
Because there's a significant quantity of safety that you have to have on all sets.
No, that was exactly what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you to kind of, explain to people what the prop master responsibility is. You kind of just did that right there. Now, when it comes to certain situations, now on bigger sets, there's different teams. You have someone like an armorer. And they all kind of work in conjunction, yes?
Well, still the prop master is in charge ultimately of everything. However, if a prop master is not on set for particular scenes, then the armorer is then in charge. The armorer is always in charge of the weapons themselves, but then the armorer is in charge of all props when the prop master is not on set. So they're basically the number two in command. So even though they specifically are responsible for all weapons, they will take over the entire job if the prop master is not on the scene.
Okay, awesome. That's good to get that clarity there. So it's really the prop master, but armor is part of the team, and that's how all films work.
Yes.
The big films. You always got the units, right? Everything's a unit, right? It's just like the stunt coordinator. Is in charge of of the stunt players and the stunt people and stuff like that. So everyone has units, camera unit, sound unit, department. There's all departments, right? So with this being said, now there has been no mention of a prop master on the Rust set. I don't know if there was one.
There was one assigned to the movie, but he wasn't there the day of the incident. And from what I have been doing through my research, I don't think he was there really at all for the movie. From what I understand, the armorer, who her name is Hannah Gutierrez,
right,
was the one essentially was in charge of the props as well as the armory.
Yeah,
the majority of the filming, if not all the filming.
Not all the filming. Now we know that it's been put into the press and public record that Hannah, she is the daughter of a very famous armorer,
that's
right?
Her experience. Exactly.
So she got her experience. She probably learned directly. I'm sure she learned directly from him. However, she didn't have much. She didn't have much experience under her belt yet. She didn't have any
this was
really
her second
titles.
Movie that she was the lead armorer in, and actually in the first movie, there was a few incidents involving her, which I'm not sure if you're aware of or if the community is aware of.
I did read that too. There was in the first movie I read that it might have been an incident there. So there
was a confirmed incident on the first movie. The name of the movie was the Old Way. Yeah, the Old Way.
The Old Way.
Essentially, she let a round from a gun go without anyone knowing that was happening. The director wasn't aware of it. No one was aware of it. I don't know if she was playing around with the weapon or what. I wasn't there. Obviously, I don't know.
Yeah.
But some of the cast actually walked off the set because they were very upset with her. And one of the people who walked off the set was Nicolas Cage, actually.
Wow. Now, I wasn't sure about that one. Wow, that speaks volumes on itself. And speaking of walking off, there were some crew members that walked off this set.
Oh yeah, there were multiple safety issues.
Yeah,
not even necessarily involving weapons. There was significant problems on this set from day one. From day one, there were lots of issues with this set.
I mean, this is what I'm talking. So I mean, now, Rich, you know, let's put yourself in that position. You're hired to come onto this set. Now, you know, you take a scope, you take a look at the scope of everything. What's the first thing you're doing? What's the first thing would you do?
Well, you need to sit down with the director and the producers and let them know that you're in charge and you're not playing games and you're going to follow the rules and regulations. We know SAG and AFTRA has very, very specific rules about what can and cannot be done on sets, who is responsible for what actions. And the director, who is one of the people who was, you know, looking to be held responsible, but they haven't charged him yet with anything, basically has not a great reputation for safety.
Oh man. Now I heard, or I read, I should say, I didn't hear. I read that the first AD pled guilty to negligence or something like that, right?
Something like unlawful use of a deadly weapon or something to that extent. I don't remember the exact charge, but he pled guilty from the get-go. He's out of it. He's completely actually out of it at this point in time. He has nothing to do with it. Now the only two pending is obviously Alec Baldwin and of course, you know, the Hannah Gutierrez.
Now here, just to give everyone perspective, people, I know y'all have been probably following this case if you haven't. So what I read and what was put out there is that the reason why that first AD was even involved is because he was the one who handed Alec Baldwin the gun.
Yes.
And he declared that is a cold gun.
Exactly.
Right. So when you say that, with matter of fact, Rich, let's
let me explain that to people who aren't obviously in the business like we are. A cold gun is basically a paperweight. It's safe, it's secure, there's no rounds in it, there's nothing. It's a heavy piece of steel.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It's safe. Which it wasn't a cold gun actually, because in theory it had allegedly blanks in it, which does not make it a cold gun. Blanks are deadly still.
Yes, that is true.
And the reason why he was involved is allegedly, I wasn't there. Ms. Gutierrez Reed loaded the gun and then gave it to the AD. The AD held on to it for like a few hours. And then he gave it to Alex Baldwin to shoot a scene. And the scene that they shot wasn't even scheduled to be shot that day, but he wanted to practice another scene, and that's how that all happened. So the gun wasn't even supposed to be on the set for that entire day. There wasn't supposed to be weapons on that set that day at all, which makes it just a little bit more tragic, in my opinion.
Oh, it's really, really much more tragic almost. And I want to say, you know, so let's go over this, because we like to educate on this show as well.
Let me start a little from the beginning and explain what happened with this.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's do that.
Ralph, you made a good comment earlier, which I do want to get to regarding Alex and gun safety and everything like that, about knowledge and everything, which is part of the whole problem. So that was a really good point that you brought up. But so the thing basically started with this woman. All this is alleged. None of us were there. We don't know. But allegedly, she took the gun out. She did her own inspection of the gun, found it to be a cold gun, empty like it's supposed to be. Then she put blanks in it, brought it to the AD. The AD then supposedly inspected the gun also, which is the procedure. And then, but where they go wrong is she was supposed to hand directly to the actor. You don't have an intermediary ever. I give the gun, like on your set when we were filming the movie, we were using the shotguns.
Yep.
You know, I opened the guns, showed everybody they were empty. There was no rounds in them. You were there, Kevin was there, as well as the actors. And I then handed them to them and instructed them, the second the scene is done, you give them directly back to me. No one touches them but me and the actor. Even the director doesn't touch the gun. The AD doesn't touch the gun. No one needs to touch the gun. You're not involved in it. Why would you do it? It's not necessary.
Makes sense.
Yeah, this guy held on to the gun apparently for a few hours in case they needed a gun on set. And then supposedly Alec Baldwin was like, when they were finished their regular film, and he's like, all right, let's practice the next set. And that was practicing a scene. And that's when the accident happened.
Hey,
Yeah, that's one of my shotguns right there.
Yeah, there you go. That's one of the
That's me
shotguns.
bent over.
That was one of the shotguns we used in this scene here, where we, it was just a cop scene, and I'm just going through there. Look at that. So as you can see,
that young again.
right? Yeah, as you can see, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and it's just ironic that I got you on. I was going to use this footage anyway, but
hey, there's my arm.
Right. And once again, Kev wearing a million hats. He had to act in it too. So he had to be a cop. So this is our first film to trade off, right? Our first feature film. And in this scene is, that they're about to raid a house, and as you can see, we have the guns. All the actors have their guns pointed, and when the other actors come out, the guns are pointed directly at them. And there's going to be a shot I want to show you where this gentleman here, damn, I can forget his name. He was pointing right at the camera, at our director of photography at the time, Chung Pai.
Sure.
Right. So right here, as you see, they open the door. Right. Boom. This is pointing at the camera. Once again.
And but wait, I want to take something back, Wes. If you notice, if you go back and look at the angle of the shotgun, it's actually pointed to your right. It's not pointed directly at his right.
Right.
He's pointing going to the left.
Though. He's pointing at the actor.
I mean, right to the left. It's going to the it's his left, but it's the camera guy's right.
Right. Because that's
pointing away from the right. Right.
I mean, that's only because obviously no one puts a shot center right at the camera.
No, but I made that point to say is that's one of the reasons how she got popped too.
Because she was exactly.
But let's look at it this way though. This shot right here, and thank God it didn't happen. But God forbid if this gun would have went off, Chung Pai would have got caught. Definitely from this.
Oh yeah, he'd be gone.
Regardless of whether it was right at his directly at him or not, he would have got because you got your body, you got the camera there, then your body could be your shoulder or whatever the case may be. He definitely would have got caught. I mean, obviously because that's a shotgun, but even if it was just a regular handgun. So the reason why I even brought that up is because just to add to what Rich is saying, he directly checks all of the guns and hand them to the actor. Like you said, Rich, you got to establish that from the beginning that this is my thing. I'm in charge. And we had that conversation. I remember it.
You had no problem with it. You were like, do what you got to do.
Yeah, do what you got to do, man. Of course, we had no problem. We want safety first, always. Absolutely. On set. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you wanted to continue what you said, because the thing is, you kind of cleared up something. And I don't know if other people do things differently, but you kind of cleared up because some people I've heard and read that, oh, this person should check it and this person should check it and all these people should check it. So I want you to speak to that because I know some people may know more about guns than others.
SAG has safety bulletins, which everybody who's in actors know. SAG has their very specific safety bulletins, and literally they go straight through procedures of what to do in every different incident. If it's a stuntman doing a high jump, if it's a water incident, if it's this, it's that. And one of the things they go over is weapons.
Yeah.
Then blanks versus live ammo and stuff like that. And it whisked straight through it. However, there is, now getting back to Ralph's point, where he said about him just being an actor. If you look at the very top of the safety bulletins, the very first thing it says is, as an actor, you are ultimately responsible for your own safety and the safety of your fellow cast members. And within the business and within law enforcement and any training procedure, everyone always tells you that if you are given a gun, it's your responsibility to look at it and see if it's loaded or unloaded. And if you don't know how to do it, you should be asking the prop person, how do I open this up? Is it loaded? Is it not unloaded? If they don't do it for you, which realistically the prop person, like I used to do, I would literally open the gun and show them there's nothing in it, and then I close it and hand it to them and be like, don't touch it till we shoot. If it was a handgun, put it in your holster, don't touch it till we're shooting. If it's a shotgun, hold it in your hands, and don't rack it, don't play with it,
Yeah.
don't do nothing till we
Yep.
shoot. But I would take the extra step and show them.
Yeah.
Now, you're really actually, to my knowledge, you're supposed to do that. I don't think every prop person does that. Every armor does that.
Mm-hmm.
But, there is a general rule of thumb that if you have a gun in your hand, you are ultimately the final person responsible for that weapon because it's in your hand.
Hands. Exactly. It's in your hand.
This is a judgment issue. I'm not taking any sides. I'm
Right.
just simply stating that this is how it is for the most
Right. For the most part. So now we know that some of the things that we know on this particular case is allegedly the DP, I'm sorry, I keep saying DP, I'm sorry, the first AD handed the gun to Alec, declared it as a cold gun.
Right.
And from what Alec's lawyers are saying is that Alec had no idea that the gun there was a live round in there, which brings up to me a whole nother
well, the live round issue is a whole nother major separate discussion from procedural.
It really is.
There's no time ever that live ammunition is on a set. You don't use live ammunition. You don't. It's period. That's it. You don't use live ammunition for nothing. We use squibs if someone's getting shot. If it's going to show a door getting shot, they use different types of explosives and special effects. You don't really shoot a door with a real weapon in a movie. Right. You don't really shoot a live round in a movie. You don't do it. It's not. Yeah. So there's no reason ever for live ammunition to be on a set. Period.
Rich, wasn't there Rich in the I forget the year, but I think it's within the last 10 that it was like mandated that there weren't going to be any more live rounds used, and I think within the last 5. With respect to blanks, and that's why they started leaning more towards CG,
right?
Firing, and like you said, the use of explosives. But wasn't there? But more specifically, wasn't there in the last? And I don't know if you know. I know you haven't been doing this for a while.
I don't remember when the change came in, but there was a ruling that came down that they're not supposed to be any more live rounds on a set. And as far as the blanks are concerned, they've been trying to get rid of blanks since Brandon Lee died.
Yeah.
Remember, Brandon Lee died because he was shot with a blank.
Right.
And the wadding of the blank killed him.
Can I pick your brain again on that one, Rich? Just I want my viewers to understand when people hear the word blanks, they think that it's that no one can get hurt.
There's nothing in it. What a blank is actually it's the same cartridge as a bullet. However, there's no lead portion on it, which the lead is the top of the bullet. That is the actual bullet that shoots out of the cartridge after the combustion.
Yeah.
What a blank is it's less gunpowder in it, but it's still enough to make an explosion. And then the wadding and the packing is still there, which is usually like a cotton wadding or something type of a thing that's in the round.
Right.
Because you have to have the gunpowder compact enough for there to be an explosion.
Yeah.
And with Brandon Lee's case, the wadding went through the gun and acted as a bullet because from close distance, wadding is still moving at a couple hundred feet a second.
You gotta remember, it's like a packed hard spitball.
Exactly, exactly. Remember those kids who shot spitballs? Now imagine shooting a spitball that's going a couple hundred feet a second with gunpowder behind it. They can still do some significant damage if you're close enough. In Brandon Lee's case, he was close enough, and that's how he died. Unfortunately, God rest his soul.
Right. Yeah, it's something.
And that was a horrible tragedy because that man was amazing.
Oh man, he was on his way, man.
He was on his way. He was on the verge.
But he did The Crow, and that was unfortunately the film that he met his demise. When he did The Crow, man, that movie was so good. But rest in peace, Brandon Lee, man. Let me tell you, so they've been trying to get rid of blanks since then. So people, but we still use it. So now, is there anything else that they use in replace of that, in place of blanks? Is there any
really ultimately it's CGI. CGI is something that can be done, especially nowadays with the technology is so phenomenal.
Yeah, you could do it on an app.
It's not like when we were years ago. We were working where CGI was not so good. You knew CGI.
Yeah,
I heard they were even trying to get rid of squibs. That the CGI is taking the place of squibs because I mean,
they don't use squibs anymore. By the way, for the people who don't know what squib is,
Yeah.
let me get back a little bit with that. A squib is like a fake blood patch with a little tiny charge in it. So when I point a gun at you and pull the trigger, boom, blood comes out of your chest now. That's a squib.
That's a squib.
It looks like you shot. Just to clarify for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't want to use jargon that people aren't. But you know, they got the majority of the demographic here are
Who knows exactly what
filmmakers and stuff like that. So, but yeah, exactly. So they've been trying to get because of CGI. No, and I mean, it's so crazy with the technology now. I mean, I literally was about to buy this packet that was like you could literally drag and drop bullet holes onto a person, you know, onto an image.
The blood dripping out of them. You can
the blood
dripping right out of
it. And boom. So I'm like, okay, do you think if there's at all, is there an advantage or disadvantage? We already know there's a disadvantage. Is there an advantage to using a real weapon? Obviously not live rounds, but just a real weapon, period.
The real weapon portion of it, there is an advantage. I mean, you want to have the physical gun in your hand when you're acting. You want to have, but they can take that to the next level where they can make these replica guns that can't fire. They can't even put a gun in. You know, one of my friends literally just specifically asked me that exact question. He said, "Why do they still use real guns on movie sets?" And it's not really necessary to use real guns on movie sets anymore. They can make a gun that looks exactly like a real gun, but the internal mechanisms aren't working. It can't accept a bullet, so you still have the physical weight in your hand, where you can still rack it to make it look good, or if it's a shotgun, rack it that way. But at the same point in time, that it's not readily capable to shoot a bullet.
Right.
Yeah, but I think also too. The reason why it will, and to be honest with you, I don't think guns will ever be, you know, with the exception of like on sci-fi movies and stuff like that, where they have to create, you know, different kind of elaborate guns. I don't think in the traditional sense that guns are going to be removed from sets for the simple fact of one, just the overall, well, one, because of NRA, that's another point of it, but just the authenticity. I mean, you can give somebody a 3D printed gun, and it's not the same weight and the same feel. And sometimes, depending on what the action is that the actor is doing, you can't get. You're not going to get the same amount of realism from it, or at least not to the untrained eye. To the trained eye, they're going to be like, "Wait a minute. What was that?"
Yeah,
that wasn't.
That's my point exactly. Is that, you know, you for most actors that I've interacted with, you know, there's like these plastic BB guns that are on the market that look like a real gun. But if you give it to an actor and they're holding a paper, it's this light little thing in their hand.
Yeah,
they're not. Some of them, not all of them, obviously. You get phenomenal actors that you give them a brick and they're going to make you think they're holding a gun. But some actors that they're not going to be able to play their role as well because it just doesn't feel authentic. And the fact is that you want a certain amount of authenticity when you are making a movie, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Guns, I don't think
and there's a difference between. There's also a difference between, you know, the weight of a Beretta being pulled from your hip and a Desert Eagle. Like there's and depending on the size of the person and whether it's female, male, it's a lot of things that factor into play.
Which is why there's so many different guns on the market for those exact reasons, for people who actually really do shoot. But it's the same reason why you need different guns on a set. I personally think if you make guns safe that can't fire around, there's no reason to get rid of them off of sets. I think it's a really good thing to have for an actor if he's playing a cop, let him have a cop's gun. Just make sure he can't shoot someone with it.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, let me ask you this. I'm kind of like playing devil's advocate here, but what about speaking of authenticity, what about having that recoil you know, where a person, you know, because when they shoot a gun, if they have that proper recoil, because that also has to be
That's
acted.
the whole argument for blanks.
Yeah, that's
that literally is the exact argument why people don't want to get rid of blanks.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't want to get rid of live ammo, because they were like, even a blank isn't the same, and technically it's not. It's not. It does. If you're an avid shooter, you would notice the difference immediately. But you know, most actors are not avid shooters. But let's say it's a military show and they're in combat and they're shooting machine guns. If you don't have that recoil, you're not going to act the proper way. That's the exact reason why people argue that you still have to have at least blanks on movie sets.
Yeah, and in this case, right, we're talking about a Western, so they're dealing with, you know, revolvers, a lot of weapons, revolvers. I believe they said, I don't know, they may have recovered like 300 rounds of ammo or something like that. 500 rounds, excuse me.
And one box of that ammo was live, real ammo, not.
Now that's what I don't understand. You know, now is it possible? And I'm just grabbing at straws here. Is it possible, Rich? And this is just a literal guess. Why would they be using the real ammunition? Is it because they have maybe they were doing target practice or something like that? Maybe there
is a lot of rumors floating around about this set, and one of the rumors is that, once again, as we were talking about Hannah Gutierrez Reed regarding her previous film, she was accused of, and they actually have confirmed that there are text messages where she was saying, I want to get some live rounds so we could do target shooting in between shots or something to that nature, where they actually have the text messages, not from this movie, but from the previous one that she was involved in.
I read that. Yeah.
So, and a lot of people are claiming that they were also doing that on this movie. Now, I don't know if law enforcement actually has witnesses that saw people doing that and they're keeping it quiet pending the trial. I personally don't know. But what I do know is that there are accusations that she was shooting live rounds through the prop guns. And these guns they're replica guns. They're not real guns. So the quality of the manufacturing isn't the same. They're not designed to pump 100 rounds through without the metal cracking.
I'm about to say falling apart, might explode in your hand or something.
And that's actually Alec Baldwin's whole point, is that, to jump ahead a little bit.
No, no problem.
He's claiming that he never pulled the trigger and the gun went off without him pulling the trigger. Now, the FBI analyzed the gun and said that that's impossible. However, where the FBI, according to his lawyers, once again, I'm not there, I'm not the FBI, blah, blah, blah. But according to Mr. Baldwin's lawyers, the FBI were not able to actually test the gun because it was in such poor damage that they couldn't get it to fire a gun around themselves, even in testing.
Wow.
Now, with that being said, I remember, I don't remember where it was, but either early on or maybe a little bit, maybe around the time that all the accusations started coming out, they said that that gun went off once or twice before. Is that true?
That's what, once again, that's under the rumor mill. No one can prove that did or did not happen as of right now. And there is also a lot of things in the investigation that the authorities are keeping quiet. So if they do have a witness that saw that, they're not bringing it forward at this point in time.
Yeah.
And if that did happen, honestly, if they have a witness that happened where the gun went off on its own, I don't really see them charging Alec. I still think that Hannah Gutierrez Reed would be charged for multiple reckless things, possibly. But if they have one witness that saw that gun go off on its own without the trigger being pulled, that is Alec Baldwin's entire defense.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, Rich, here's my problem with that, and this is my only issue. Well, this is one of my issues with my main issue with it, though.
Right.
If that was a revolver, right? The only way Now, unless unless it was a bad round or something in the gun and you dropped it and the round went off or something crazy like that happened. A revolver is not going to go off unless the hammer's cocked.
Exactly. And now, so the question is, did he cock the hammer to make it look good on television without pulling the trigger? Or is he just claiming he's holding the gun and it just magically goes off? It's not, to my knowledge, I'm not a gunsmith, but everything I've ever learned in my entire life, a gun does not go off if the hammer's not cocked. Now, if the hammer is cocked, on the other hand, there are certain weapons where the trigger can be so sensitive that if you drop it or shake it, it can go off once the hammer's already cocked.
Right.
So that is a true fact. That the hammer is cocked. There are some guns where the trigger's so sensitive that
it's a hair trigger. That's what they call a hair trigger.
Right. That's why they get the term exactly. Hair trigger. That's where that term comes from. Exactly. So I don't know what he's claiming, but he is claiming he never pulled the trigger. And the FBI report states that that's not possible. But his attorneys are fighting the FBI's report because they're saying the gun was in such poor condition that they couldn't even test it. And
I wonder if they were even rolling when that happened. And I know that's kind of crass of me to say, but
no, you want it to be, unfortunately, but
you want that evidence behind it. You want that
evidence, exactly. You would have hoped that they were, but I don't think they were. I'm almost positive that.
I think they were blocking or something. I don't think they were
exactly. So
I think they were blocking. I don't think they have anything on film or anything like that.
Because that would have told the tale of where his finger was in regards to the trigger well.
Did something wrong or not? And the story.
That's true. That is true.
Well, let me ask this question: with the FBI saying that the gun was in such poor condition, can't Alex really?
The FBI's not saying that. Alec Baldwin's attorney is saying that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alec Baldwin. So let's say for the sake of this argument, this discussion, that the gun was really in that poor condition, where he just picked it up and it went off. Doesn't that kind of strengthen his position? Well, I didn't do anything. I just touched it and kaboom, it went off. But on the same token, doesn't that then fall on Alec Baldwin as the associate producer to say, hey, you should have equipment that was
quality equipment
that was working properly?
And it also falls once again back on Hannah Gutierrez Reed, that why are you supplying these guns that
subpar equipment?
Yeah, poor equipment. Which I never would do myself. I make sure everything was in fully working condition before I even brought it on set. I inspected things a dozen times before I even brought it to you guys.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed
to do. Circling back to her, this is what I don't understand. If you come from now, obviously before I even met Rich, I handled guns. I mean, my dad was a Marine. I handled guns. Then when I met Rich, there were certain things that even my dad didn't even show me. Like that I wasn't, that I wasn't like I had the standard. I knew the standard of whenever you have a weapon pointed down to the ground, specifically a shotgun or any kind of rapid fire weapon, you always have it pointed to the ground. The basic stuff. But there was stuff that I learned from Rich that as far as being on set. Now, her being you were your dad is the premier gun armorer of the industry, basically.
Right. Well respected, well known.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I just don't I can't.
Now, once again, I got to preface this with I don't know this woman and I wasn't there. Yeah. But the only problem that sometimes does happen in cases like that when you're dealing with significant nepotism like that is there comes an arrogance that I know everything and I know what I'm doing. And from what I've been reading up about this woman, especially just all the complaints from the previous movie that she was in charge of.
The only one.
The old way. The accusations that were made against her on the old way. She sounds almost like someone who maybe got the position before she was really ready for the position. Maybe a little too immature, a little too young, maybe a little too arrogant, maybe. I don't know. But that's just what I'm an investigator. I'm a professional investigator. This is
right.
And this is my gut feeling only. I have zero evidence behind it.
Right.
That's my gut feeling.
Yes.
Well, Rich, we are on the same page because I said the same thing, and I even took it a step further. Was that set was probably a very relaxed set, and what tends to happen with actors, if you get around and just people in general, if you get around an environment that's comfortable, if you're not a stickler for things being right, or if you're not
professional,
or just well, not just professional, but also in her case being green, she's instead of following the lead and reading the room like, okay, these are lives that I'm playing with here. Let me be the serious person because we're handling weapons that could potentially kill somebody. She was just going with her. She read the room and joined in the room. Like, hey,
and that's a big sign of immaturity. Unfortunately,
it's a big sign.
Sometimes you got to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
I mean, hell, I say it to my daughter. Sometimes you got to be the bad guy. It's not fun, but you got to do it.
You got to do it. And that's what you're on set to do. If you don't have what people have to understand is, and this is for everybody. You know, we have a big demographic of filmmakers, indies, and a lot of times we all know in indie films it's very hard to be able to have in your budget to hire people like Rich and people, you know, that could come in and do it. So a lot of times, trust me, I've seen it. I've worked on sets like that. That there is no one like you on set, Rich. They're just all handling prop guns or real guns or whatever. I've shot on sets like that. So, you know, if a person like that isn't on set, though, you do kind of to what Kevin was saying. The actors, one of the first things that I've seen that made me cringe is we bring in, you know, a box of prop guns. And the first thing the actors are doing is grabbing them and chasing each other around with them and stuff like that, like acting like it's like you become a kid again, like you see the toys, right?
Indians all over again.
Yeah, right. So you see the toys, it's, and it's like, yo.
I kind of figured out a way to get around that. What I used to do is, I used to bring in the aerosol guns. You know what aerosol guns are? Those are the guns that shoot the little plastic BBs.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would give a couple of the guys the aerosols and let them go shoot each other. And then all of a sudden, a few seconds later, these guys are all getting little welts on them from the little BBs. And then they're like, all right, this isn't fun anymore. And then they stop. It's like a kid. You got to get the curiosity out once, and then they're done. But they were a couple of seconds. That's
hilarious.
And then they'd be like, all right, this isn't really fun anymore. And they would give me the guns back, and they were done.
I walked on the set not that long ago down here in Atlanta. Yeah, down here in Atlanta, I was on a set, and you know, I was actually directing this particular project, and I saw, you know, people. We had prop guns that did not fire, and then we ended up using real guns too. And I remember seeing one of the actors, you know, take the gun, and they was like, you know, so now I'm living in Atlanta. This is a carry state, you know, so almost everybody down here has touched the gun.
Absolutely. So that owns quite a few of them.
Yeah, it owns quite a few of them. So one of my actors who was very experienced with guns, I believe he was like ex-military, whatever. Mm-hmm. So he grabbed the gun and he was, you know, doing his thing with it. And I just went over to him. I said, "Did you check that gun?" And he's like, he had a face. He looked so embarrassed because he's so used to handling guns. He was almost embarrassed that he didn't check the gun. You know,
it happens.
And it happened. And I'm
just saying, people can make a mistake.
Yeah,
that's why you need someone who always just follows the steps. Up. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Follow the checklist, and you won't have a problem.
If you look at all of the stuff, even going back to when we did the trade-off, I'm very thankful that you agreed to work on our set, because up until that point, I hadn't worked with a prop master or anyone like that. We were just like, you know, lickety split productions. Let's grab the stuff and, you know, run out and shoot stuff. But the fact that, and I remember this, I don't know if you remember this conversation we had, Rich. I remember you said to me when we were talking about, payment and stuff like that, paying your company, and you said, I'm gonna go easy on you because I know you're a new production, you're independent. We definitely did not pay you your worth, but you really, looked out for us because we wasn't independent. These independent filmmakers need people like yourself that would work with them, because we had the same thing when we had an episode talking strictly about stunts, right? We had a bunch of stunt performers on, including Jamie Miller. We had because Jamie's went on to become a very he's real experienced, successful and experienced stunt performer. So we had Jamie on and a couple other successful stunt performers, and just to try to urge my audience, which is mostly independent filmmakers, listen, you got to find a way to hire these guys, man.
And there
Talk
are
to them.
people out there like me.
Yeah.
There are people out there like me who give significant breaks to independent. My story always was, I'll give you a break in the price, and if you sell your movie and you do well, then you come back and you pay me my normal rate.
Right.
But until that happens,
it's only fair.
We worry about that later. And and when you become really famous, remember me and give me a really good job.
Give me a really good job, exactly. And I'll add to that, Rich, with the way things are now, with a lot of monetary back end stuff, you got independent places like Tubi and things like that, where you can make good money with the streaming.
With the
on
back end, is where the
you
money
can
is
work.
nowadays,
Exactly. You can negotiate with these people back end money. You do your contract with them and say, hey, I can't pay you your worth right now. I'll give you this much up front, and I can, let's negotiate some back end, because we're going to put it on Tubi or Amazon or whatever, and the money's going to come back, because they're making pretty good money right now with these ad-based streaming services.
Absolutely.
So,
Especially, I'm sure it's even much easier than when we did 10
yeah, exactly. Oh my God! If we had what we had
there's
back
people
then.
out there who are willing to do it, because every young guy that's starting out in the business, you need a hand. You can pay it forward. You need to help these young guys out, because you got the next Martin Scorsese out there, something like that. Who the hell knows? And then he might remember you were nice to him when he was a kid.
I know. I mean, you might have the next Wes Clark out there. I don't know.
Exactly.
Shameless plug, but I mean, but in all seriousness, I really appreciate you for that. I've never told you that, but I really appreciate you for doing that, because it had me understand we need to have this every time we're doing a
and I'm
film.
glad that you got that
requires
lesson out of it, because there's a lot of people who take shortcuts, and you see people get hurt and stuff, and happens all the time.
Oh yeah, I've seen it, and because of it, I've kind of taken a little more initiative as director. If I'm directing the set, and we don't have a person like yourself, or we don't have a prop master, and then there's guns that are provided, prop guns. At that point, I kind of take the initiative myself to look over them, make sure, not give them out to everybody, just run around with them. Things like that. And I've become that person now where I'm like, look, the guns are here.
But even with that, just for yourself, you need to start protecting yourself from that. Because God forbid something turns around and happens, they'll be like, hey, that's the guy that was checking the guns.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, dude. I've turned down quite a few jobs that didn't have the proper people. That's just like if we're doing stunts and you don't have at least a stunt coordinator.
Right.
It's not, I mean, if we're doing heavy stunts, anything's a stunt, as we know. A shove is a stunt.
Significant, dangerous stuff.
Right.
Ultimately, the two biggest things that you need to take seriously are weapons and stunts on a set. Those are the two things where people get hurt.
People get hurt, and you
the quickest.
Easy, so easy for things to go bad in a second.
And I speak to
West knows my main thing.
Yeah.
Stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
Gun safety person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Insurance.
Exactly.
You have insurance, yeah. So this is the thing. These are reasons, Rich, when I was coming up doing more independent stuff, that I turned down jobs, because if they didn't have insurance, I'm like, nope. Like, I'm not shooting. But Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So those type of things you just have to have, and I speak to my audience all the time about this. I know you want to get it done. I know you got a certain amount of money. You done budgeted for the DP, you budgeted for the sound and all this other stuff, right? But you didn't budget for prop master
Right.
because you just figured, I can go. You may still have someone that you can
Yeah,
rent
my
props
buddy's got a
from.
couple guns that I could borrow from
Right.
him for the scene,
Yeah,
and then I'll give
exactly.
him back to him.
Not an ideal thing, not recommended, and you shouldn't even do it. It's not.
I'll wholeheartedly go
hard.
past that and say I think it's a bad idea to do that most of the time. If you do
Yeah.
it, it's, you're courting trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
This is true. So just doubling back to this. So now, once again, it all still comes down to a major talking points. Obviously, the prosecution feels that Alec Baldwin is definitely holds a certain amount of responsibility, or maybe all of it. Well, not all of it, because they have the armor of.
But that's like I said to you earlier. Within law enforcement, number one, as well as within a lot of industries, it's whoever holds the gun has just as much responsibility because you physically have the gun in your hand. Which, like Ralph is like, I don't understand why that would be the case, but and I know that these guys are not gun people. They don't have the knowledge, and most of them probably don't even know how to open a weapon to see if it's loaded or not. But in this case, it was supposed to be a cold gun, which is supposed to be completely empty.
Yeah.
And there were definitely blank rounds put in it that they admitted that they put blank rounds that they thought were blank rounds. It alone, had he known there were rounds in there, they could have stopped it. It could have saved it.
Wow.
And now, with that being the case, what Rich just said, this is from Justia.com. This is a law justice website, and I'm reading this verbatim. This is the 2018 New Mexico Statutes, Chapter 30, Criminal Offenses, Article 2, Homicide, Section 30-2-3, Manslaughter. I'm just going to skip down to B, which is what they're being charged with. Involuntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act, not amounting to felony, or in the commission of a lawful act which might produce death in an unlawful manner or without due caution or circumcision.
Exactly. And what that kind of translates to, the short version of it is they're saying that as a grown adult who is a competent human being who's not mentally impaired, he should have checked to see the gun was unloaded. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying
that's what that means. You just explained what that meant. Yeah. Oh wow. That's an interesting little nugget there. Do you think, and this is just, I mean, when I say do you think, obviously I'm just getting everybody's opinions on it. With that being said, because as you was reading that, Kev, I was looking at this other thing too. Because remember we talked about go, a little bit ahead, but it said we had talked about possible civil suits, this and that. But I didn't realize that the Hutchins family settled a wrongful death suit on October 5th, 2022.
Yeah, they took it. That supposedly Alec Baldwin stated that he didn't want them to want for anything, and he felt horrible about the incident, and he just wanted to settle it. And he was like, "Whatever you guys want, tell me, we're settled it now, get it over with."
Yeah.
Which, if that is the case, I wholeheartedly respect that from him.
You know what? Wholeheartedly respect it, and goddamn, that's what's going to stick him in court. I did not know that, and that's what's going to. They're going to the prosecute, and you could tell by her term, the West, which you told me earlier. You actors think you're above the law.
Yeah, she said no one's above the law.
No one's above the law. And she mentioned something about, she literally mentioned something like, I don't know, fancy pants actors or something like that. Some sort of corny term. But
and I think he did that on purpose to be a good guy. But I think it might come back to bite him in the ass legally.
It is.
They're gonna be like,
It is.
You knew
Because
you did something wrong.
any attorney, any attorney would tell you if you're specifically in that. Because that's why, for the most part, civil cases usually come after
a criminal case.
The criminal case.
Yeah.
They never come before because they don't want to paint the picture, because what a jury's gonna look at is like, oh, they gave them the money.
You paid them
They
off.
must be guilty.
They gave it up, yeah. And it also says something here. It says, I'm grateful the producers and entertainment community have come together to pay tribute to Helena's final work. So it says here, under the deal, the filming of Rust would continue with all of the original principal players on board. So it says added Rust movie production. So it looks like that they're, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Are they going to be giving some proceeds towards them, or is it just money that they, got?
I think what Rich said, now putting it all together with what Rich said, what it sounds like is Alec probably did it being a good guy. I'm not going to take that from him. Alec did it being a good guy. But I think as a producer, with his producer hat on, he's like, look, money's already been spent to start this production. We gotta finish.
We gotta finish
and
it.
We can't go forward and have this family constantly, berating us while we're trying to film this movie. Right. Let's get them squared away. Make sure they're taken care of, so we can keep them nice and quiet over here in the corner. Now we can go over here and do what we need to do, and whatever happens criminally, we'll deal with it when it comes. And unfortunately, it came.
I think I remember hearing though that all of that happened against his lawyer's recommendations. Though I think his lawyer was like, don't settle, and I think he was just like, I want to get this over with, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, because they said there's a quote here that says, throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained specific desire to do what is best for Helena's son. And Baldwin's attorney, Lucas, this is what he said, Luke Nickus says, we are grateful to everyone who contributed to the resolution of this tragic, painful situation. And they'll be able to say, we're pleased that the parties came together to resolve the matter, which, subject to court approval, marks an important step forward in celebrating Helena's life and honoring her work. So, and they just said the terms of the settlement were not disclosed, obviously. Which if the fact that they agreed to let the film continue, they're probably going to get some of those proceeds or something.
They're going to get back in, and that kid is going to be going to college.
Kid's going to have to eat off that, which is right, which is only.
And it's absolutely right. It's like there's 100% right.
Yeah, it's only fair.
It's only fair, man. So with that, oh boy, this is so much to unpack on it.
It's a heavy conversation. It really is.
Heavy conversation, but it all circles around the fact that, I just want to focus a little bit on the lack of safety that was demonstrated allegedly on this set. You have on the timeline I was looking at, I think early in the process, even before that the incident happened, you had people who walked off the set.
They're saying that they're working 13 hours a day, and they weren't being given any accommodations. They weren't able to, so they had to drive home, and they were driving like an hour and a half each way or something like that. And then by the time they got home, they got no sleep and had to be back the next day. Supposedly there was a lot of unhappy people on that set.
But aren't they breaking SAG rules?
No, they're not bound by SAG.
Depending on what union is.
I don't think any of this was SAG. I think this was all.
It was all non-union.
Probably.
I think so.
It definitely, the crew, I think, were non-union. I think that's what it was. I'm sure they had to use SAG because Alec is SAG. I'm sure they had to use SAG for the actors, but
this was like his personal project. This was one of his, his little things that he wanted to be done. So I think a lot of the money was just coming straight out of his pocket, and it was like trying to be a small independent film.
Wow.
Yeah, and so right here I'm reading a quote from Hollywood Reporter where they say a number of Rust crew members at the time told The Hollywood Reporter, they were specifically frustrated with the producers. And then there's a quote, what's most shocking here is that there wasn't a real producer to be found on this film. And that's a veteran producer said. He said, when you're a producer, you gotta vet anyone you haven't worked with previously and pounce when there's a problem. And it says they cited red flags where prior to the fatal shooting, there seemed to be a previous complaint about, which we talked about an accidental weapons discharge that went unaddressed.
Mm-hmm.
So it says here, there was a complaint about accidental weapons discharge that went unaddressed. Several crew members also walked off set over unsafe conditions. And Gutierrez Reed, the film's armorer, only had one, as we already mentioned, she had one credit under her belt as an armorer. So people were leaving this set.
Yeah,
and in droves. And they, at one point, they had the whole, I read it somewhere else too, where they said they had to stop production even before all this happened.
Yeah, they had to renegotiate with them to get them back on the set. They had to renegotiate housing and a few other things just to get them back on.
Right. So what they were trying to do was hire locally or some semi-locally. Who knows how far they lived from actual set? They were shooting out in the desert.
It was in the middle of a desert. It's on a ranch. So how local could anyone even possibly be?
Exactly. So they're shooting with what they feel is locals, and they're not putting them up, not giving them, I mean, it's just the set itself was a crap show, So that and like you said, the previous set that Gutierrez, worked on, allegedly, there was the situations with her there. Mm-hmm. So this whole thing, I don't know how much. So my question I pose to all of you here, how much of that, because they did mention they're charging him, they're kind of doing it from the angle of him being the actor holding the gun. So now, because he is one of the producers,
the primary producer, I believe.
Yeah, he is the primary producer. So how much of that do you think, and this is a question for all of you, and we'll let Rich start, how do you think that's going to affect him, if at all? Will it hurt him? Will it affect
It's going to hurt him financially, civilly. Will being a producer affect him on the criminal case? I don't really think so, unless they come up with other charges down the road, something about like a gross negligence or something like that. Then maybe as a producer, you could be held for that. But ultimately, for the actual criminal case, being a producer is not going to affect him, but being a producer will massively affect him for all the additional civil cases that are coming down. Because even though he did settle Ms. Hutchins' case, there's going to be more civil cases coming down the road.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
And that's what he's going to get.
Oh, it's coming.
Hammered.
What do you think, Kev? Do you think this is going to hurt him or not affect him at all? The fact that he is a producer, and ultimately, as we just read, producers is responsible for vetting these people that are, they bringing in to pay to, do their job with people's lives. Kev, you hear me? Oh, we might have lost Kev.
No, maybe we lost.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you now. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. From an emotional standpoint, I'm pretty sure he's probably, and I don't want to speak for him, but I'm hoping he's getting to a place to where he can move forward and not keep repeating that over and over again. And in his mind, or when he's driving or doing whatever. From a professional standpoint, it's going to affect him in two manners. One, I'm wondering who's going to work with him going forward. He's going to have to be, quite possibly, for any future projects that he becomes a producer on. He's damaged goods to a degree. So he's going to have to be almost a silent partner and run through a almost like play the shell corp game
That was the exact terminology that was in my head. Silent partner. When you said
yeah.
You know, that's the only way he's really going to be able to be a part of any future productions.
I think
in the upcoming future.
I want to mention that, well, at least the people that are involved actor-wise in the film and some of the actors outside of the film have shown their support for Alec Baldwin. They do feel that the wrong person is being charged. Now, Ralph, same question. How do you how do you feel if it will at all affect him, even in this case? Rich said he doesn't think so. Kev kind of put his opinion out there. What do you think, Ralph?
See, my thing, if I'm still going to go Alec Baldwin, the actor, over the last couple of years, Alec Baldwin has had a couple of negative things with him. Certainly what happened with his kid, on some on-set crazy behavior. We're not even going to talk about way back in the 80s between him and Kim Basinger, the toxicity that was. Right. But when you talk about Alec Baldwin, the actor, as an actor, not the man, the actor, there's very few people that will sit there and tell you that man can't act. There's very few people that will tell you that he's not talented. This will be a blip on him, but will it deter people from wanting to work with him? I don't think so. I think they're going, because a lot, like you said, a lot of people do seem to think that he's taking the brunt of this when he really shouldn't. When maybe he's not as responsible as everybody thinks that he is, and I'm wondering, I don't think he's responsible as I think that he should be. But will that deter other actors from wanting to? Will that deter like Disney or Marvel from wanting to work with him? Probably not. Probably not. Because
no, as an actor, he's not. As an actor, they're definitely he's not toxic as an actor. It's from the producer standpoint, but at the same time, you got to also, and what Ralph said, even with his past toxicity, and with this, he basically fell on his sword. So even let's just say he did pull a trigger, and they had a picture of him pulling the trigger. His act of him giving the money to the family early, against his lawyer's wishes, what it sounds like is him not allowing anybody else to take blame. Almost, hey, point the light on me. It's me.
Yeah, very honorable. Very honorable.
That's a very honorable thing. However, he does maintain his innocence, of course.
Yeah, he didn't pull the trigger, but he says the accident was
the buck stops with me. It's my right. And this is the other thing I think also going to play when people really sit back and I'm going to say, let's just sit there and say Alec Baldwin knew that the gun was loaded and he fired at her. What was the purpose? What did he have? Did they have some sort of beef? Was there a previous history between the two of them? Because you just don't you just don't do that to someone who you never quote unquote encountered in your life. You just say, "Oh, I just want to shoot you, so I'm gonna hire you to be on this film set so I could put a bullet in your ass." That just doesn't happen, you know. I think people are really gonna say that this was a tragic accident. There was a lot of flaws in it. However, it was an accident. It was an accident that he is not responsible because he was not the person that was responsible for checking the gun or loading the gun, despite what you gentlemen read that, at the end of the day, the actor is responsible. Like I said, if you never handled a gun, which he has handled guns in the past, right? Let's be real. He has handled guns and movies in the past. Right.
And Ralph, that point right there also is another key factor that the prosecution is probably going to come at them with.
They're going to go right through on his credits, and they get every time he played a cop or something with a gun. They're like, here is 200 movies you were in where you had a gun in your hand. Don't tell me you've never had a gun in your hand.
But see, but that's also going to play into his favor because he'll say, well, on all those other 200 movies that I was in, that I had a gun, there was a person on set that handled that gun before they gave it to me.
That's the prosecution. But see, Ralph, that's the prosecution's argument. They're going to bring up those armorers from now. Well, and Wes said this. Me and Wes talked about this off air, and he said something. Now it becomes a point of recollection of what can you remember from that day. As the armorer, can you actually remember whether Alec actually took the time out to be the third eyes of checking that, okay, the gun is not loaded or whatever the case may be, and that it was a cold gun or whatever. there's going to be that factor. The prosecution is going to, if she's smart, that's what she would do. And and then on top of all of that, and I hate to bring the politics into it, the right hate Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a true fact.
It's a true fact.
That's a true fact.
That's true.
Yeah. Like, okay. So you was the guy playing Trump all this time, Saturday Live. Oh yeah.
Right, you think you're really funny now.
Where's the jokes? And they go back to this. Where's the jokes now?
Yeah, they already had the jokes when he first, which I thought was very tasteless to have jokes with someone died, and most of the but it is what it is. But how about this? I'll pose this question to everybody. You're on the jury, right? And now some of these factors come into play because we just kind of learned that he settled with the family. So the family seems like, I don't think they're going to pretty much be involved in this case at this point because they settled off with him.
Well, if they get brought in as a witness to testify or something like that, but I mean, there's very little that they can bring the family in for, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
At this point, there's nothing they're going to say.
They have nothing to do with the actual set. They have nothing to do with the filming, so I can't really see them.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would need him as a witness, but I mean, I'm sure the prosecution's trying to figure out a way to get them on the stand.
Just to maybe try to get him on the stand for the heart, pull on the heartstrings, pull on the heartstrings a little bit, which is whatever. But
also, what did they do now with the settlement agreement? Are there stipulations?
I'm sure
a lot of them will have stipulations.
Sure
that you can't talk about it.
I'm sure there's a NDA in there too. Yeah, because it says the settlement. The disclosures of wasn't disclosed. The details of the settlement wasn't disclosed, so I'm sure that would have to be in there.
There's one fact that we didn't bring up tonight, which, as Wes, you're the perfect person to talk to us about. Now, ultimately, as I was always believing, the set is run by the director, and there's a lot of things that came up in all of this that they didn't do any of the safety briefings that they were supposed to do. The director, he has a horrible reputation with safety from even previous. There's been many allegations about this director with horrible safety considerations in previous movies. People walked off sets from him multiple times before this. So
Alec is in trouble. Damn, Rich. I hope they don't listen to this show. Because
I hope they do, but that's a whole nother
Alec. I mean, I hope they do, but I hope they don't for Alec's sake. Because Jesus Christ, he is going to be in trouble because now that goes back to, as a producer,
you're in charge of pulling the director in. If he's not doing his job, you need to yell at him as the producer, saying, "Why are you not doing the safety briefings? Right. Why do you not have the crew have the safety meetings?"
Even beforehand, if you know he has a track record of this, before the ink dried on his check, it should have been in his contract. Look, this is XYZ. If this does not happen according to the book, you're off and we're bringing somebody else in.
And that's one of the things I'm a little concerned about Alec Baldwin with this whole film is that if you look at this whole cast of characters, a lot of them have red flags already in their past.
Wow.
And you put them all together, you're creating a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah, you are. That's
and
a terrible job as a producer.
Fall on Alec as the head.
But I'm wondering because I've been reading and I saw a couple of like law analysts and stuff like that, and it seems like the prosecution, at least not yet, are not really zoning in on him as a producer. No. They're kind of kind of focusing him on the actor part of it. That's their whole case. The actor, the pulling the trigger. So the producer part of it may not even really be brought up as just per se, because
I don't think they're going with that angle at all. But obviously, we don't know until they do the trial. But it doesn't look like they're going that way at all with any of the.
I agree. I don't think they're going to go that way.
No, they're not. You know why? Because trying to hang him out to dry as a producer isn't quote unquote sexy. Hanging Alec Baldwin out as a person, that's the sexy part.
The rich actor.
The rich actor. Not the guy that was trying to get an independent film off the ground. No. We got to get Alec Baldwin, the actor. Same
And
thing
if you
with
want to take it to the next level, like Kevin said, the rich liberal actor.
Exactly.
Where the jokes at now?
But it's true. And then add to the top, but then pile on top of that everything that Ralph said from earlier on in his career. People love to bring up your past,
and that's where the social media and the court of public opinion is going to come in, because now all of these lawyers, to try to be slick with it, they bring that stuff to social media, and and it just becomes a whole thing. Like what Kev was saying, you're going to be dealing all of that stuff now. The internet is undefeated, as they say, right?
Yep.
So you they're going to be bringing up Alec Baldwin's about to become a meme. He's about to become a GIF. All this stuff's going to happen. They're going to be taking stuff back from old movies. They're going to take it back when he cussed out his daughter.
When he was drunk on the floor.
He was drunk on the phone. He called her a little pig and all these things he called her. They're going to bring that
They're
back
going to bring up stuff from 30 Rock. When they playing his role. They going to every single... You're going to be looking at, damn, I didn't even know. They're going to say, damn, I didn't even know Alec Baldwin was even in that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you exactly what they're gonna bring up. No, they're gonna bring up the scene. Malice. Yep. When he said, "Where was God at? Where was God at?"
Where was God? God was in room number 7, operating room number 7.
That's what they're gonna bring up.
Great performance, by the way.
Yeah, they're gonna hang him out.
What a great monologue. I am God.
I am God.
I'm telling you,
that's
coming up. They're bringing that up.
They're gonna get that on in front of the jury somehow.
Yeah.
I am God.
I am God. Just like he said in his movie Malice.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh God. Yeah. This is what's so bad. I always talk about social media being more of a curse than a gift, but this is, this is where it's really, if you use it for good, it can be a very powerful weapon for your career and things like that. But too many people use it for evil.
Yeah, it'll turn you in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Final thoughts on it though. Honestly, at the end of the day, it seems like we're all kind of in the same, on the same page with it. But let's just say, for the sake, because it's the title of the show is "Who is Responsible," and this is purely an opinion. Let's let everybody know we are just real talk, and this is our opinions, and it does not affect the opinion of anyone else, and we're not lawyers or anything like that. But in your opinion, who is responsible? Ralph.
The person that was supposed to check the gun, the armorer. That's the person that's responsible. That's how I see it.
Kev.
Light a candle for Miss Gutierrez. It was her responsibility to start. She should have handed that weapon to him. She should have cleared that weapon for him, and it should not have been an assistant or anybody else that should have been it. Yes, you should have had a second party, but she ultimately bears responsibility.
All right, Rich.
All right. Well, what I will say, given the caveat that she's claiming when she ordered the ammunition, she ordered blanks, and her defense is the manufacturer sent her a box of live rounds and she didn't know it. That is her defense. With that not being the case.
That's what, part 2 to this question, Rich, because you just said that, it made me bring another question up.
Yeah.
Does that hurt her because she's an armorer and she couldn't tell the difference between the blanks and the...
Not as much as you would think. It sounds like it should.
Right.
But it doesn't.
Those rounds really do look very similar, especially if you don't take the time to inspect it from the other side. But from the bottom, they all look the same.
Wait. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, but as the armorer,
you're supposed to inspect them, yes.
No, not that. Shouldn't you have just read the box that the bullets came in? Doesn't the box tell you?
But see, her argument is that the manufacturer packed the wrong they packed the wrong product in the box.
Yeah, that's her argument. So absolutely, to look at the box, but according to her, it was in the correct box. It was just the wrong rounds in the box.
What I'm thinking happened is, I'm gonna tell you what happened, and she could say this all she wants to, but I'm gonna tell you what happened. Giving her need to want to shoot live rounds, I guarantee you what happened is they were shooting live rounds. That box went back to wherever they store their ammo at.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was trying to consolidate boxes and not knowing what they were doing, and took live round ammo and packed it into that box.
Yeah,
to have
some
a
PA
full
who
stack
didn't
box.
know what they were doing. Honestly,
right.
Kev, my personal opinion is that's what I think happened. I mean, she was already accused of shooting live ammo on a previous set out of prop weapons. And there's rumors that they were doing it on that set as well.
Yeah.
So my opinion is I personally think that's what happened. I bet that's what we're going to find out happened, probably.
Right.
Because that's the only thing that makes sense.
It is.
Yeah.
Realistically, it is, because you know what? Manufacturers don't.
They don't do that.
Pack the wrong
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really buy that. I don't buy that.
Yeah,
but just continue. Let Rich continue. Continue your answer.
Had this
Rich,
happen, I'll be very simple. And I know some of the people who are going to hear this are going to think I'm lying and full of shit. The fact that you guys know me well enough to know that if that was my set and that happened on my set, I would have freaking taken full responsibility as the armor and been like, that was my job. I screwed up, and that person died because of me and my negligence.
Yeah.
Because it's ultimately the armor's responsibility for anything that happens on a set involving a weapon. Period.
Yeah. Period.
And now, Rich, with what you just said, as an armorer, now there's always set insurance, which Alec Baldwin, and I meant to say that in my other statement, Alec Baldwin is going to be fine financially because the production has insurance that's going to take care of all of that. But as the armorer, do you yourself have additional insurance just in case there is an incident like this to where you may catch some kind of fallback?
You can. To my knowledge, most people don't. They just rely on the
I seriously doubt she did.
Yeah, I doubt that she did.
I doubt that too.
I mean, given her track record and allegedly
after this conversation, that might start becoming more of a reality in the future productions.
Yeah,
but I really doubt that she did. I think she's relying on the set, and the set insurance does cover her.
Right?
So it should cover her for everything in theory.
It should, yeah. Ideally, the set insurance should cover her as well. But if you're gonna take out extra insurance, that just doesn't sound like.
However, you got to remember one thing, Wes and Kevin and Ralph.
Yeah.
If she's found to be negligent, gross negligent, a lot of insurance policies don't cover negligence.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
That's why I said what I just asked Rich.
Mm-hmm.
It's
CYA.
Well, now I got.
I don't
now
think
I have
any insurance covers negligence, though.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. But see, now I got another question. And I think this. I don't know if this is under discussion, but her mental state, what was going on with her? Because if it was a live round, right, and she was personally responsible, let's say she was going to try it out, could someone say that she might have been trying to kill herself to make it look like an on-set accident?
Wait, what?
Who are you talking about?
The rigger. The rigger.
Like
the armorer.
No, the armorer.
Well, the armorer didn't get shot though, so
she didn't get shot. So
but that's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is this: I'm saying, who knows what her mindset was? If she in the right mental space, whether she was like on the verge of losing it, and she did want to kill herself. And I'm saying this with a maybe if she did load the gun with one live round, because there was one round in there that was live. Could it be saying that if she was going to check it, she could have actually used it on herself and killed herself, right?
Nah, that's too. I think that's reaching. That'd be too much.
She gave the gun to someone else.
Yeah, she gave it to someone else. You know what I mean? It's like she just handed the gun to. Well, she didn't have. She handed the gun to the.
She didn't even hand it to him. Somebody else did.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, to the AD,
the
first AD. Right, and first AD handed it to Alec Baldwin. So I think it's just purely, it's really, to me, it would be cut and dry. If I'm sitting on this jury and I learned just the research, or you just learn what you hear from the case about this particular person. She's negligent. I mean, she's
Yeah, but you also
green.
got to remember one thing: in a court of law, a lot of things that we're talking about, they're not going to be able to bring in.
They can't bring in. Yeah,
they're not going to know about her past. They're not going to know about the allegations.
Unless it's brought up in court.
Unless they have a witness who's going to say, "I saw them shooting live rounds."
Exactly.
Right.
They can't bring in allegations.
They can't bring in allegations.
So a lot of what we're discussing actually
is hearsay. Everything we're saying pretty much in court is hearsay. Yeah. No matter how factual it is in court, it's going to be looked at as hearsay.
Right.
Yeah.
Which they may. Like I said, we don't know. I have a feeling there might be one or two witnesses that they're going to pop out. A couple of witnesses, you'll be like,
yeah,
I was there. I saw them shooting cans or whatever it is they were shooting.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I agree.
Well, here's the thing: if we all know that the rumor mill is that this was an unsafe set, there are going to be people there's a line of people like, I'll be a witness for free.
Yeah.
Where do I need to be?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't surprise me if one or two witnesses pop out when this case goes to trial.
I mean, you got to remember the people who walked out on these sets.
I would be complaining about safety issues before.
I won't be surprised if they did interviews. I won't be surprised if they get pulled in or even volunteer to be a witness, because it all depends on how they feel about whatever. But
the FBI interviewed every person on that set.
Yeah,
they had every name of every crew member on that set, and they interviewed every single
everybody.
So we don't know what was said to these guys.
We don't know. That's true. No, now, Rich, did you see the video? The body cam video? I think TMZ put it out when they were I guess they were interviewing the armorer when she was talking to one of the police officers. This was from their body cam footage, and she made a couple of statements on that footage. I don't know if they're going to be able to use that. If it's
that's all eligible.
That's ineligible, yeah.
No,
but
it is eligible.
It is eligible. Okay, yeah.
Anything that she said in an interview.
Right.
In a public, see, people get confused of when a statement can be used and not, and there's little variations between state to state, but for the most part is that if you're not in custody, which means that if you're not like a prisoner,
right?
If you can leave at any time you want, then anything you say is admissible because I don't have to read you Miranda. You only need Miranda to be written and given to someone when they're in custody, when I have custody of you. So if you're free to go and I'm talking to you and you say, yeah, I shot him, but later on you're like, well, you didn't read me my rights. I don't have to read you your rights.
Right. Oh,
so this is why
a legal issue, but pretty much anything she said to that officer, if it's on videotape, it's on a body cam, it's gonna be admissible.
Oh,
and this is why I know Rich is the law or ex-law or still law, whatever, however you want to put it. And I'm not throwing shade. I'm not throwing shade against Rich, but this is why they tell you, do not talk unless you have a lawyer present. Keep your mouth shut. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. No. It's
you don't think I tell all my friends and my family that?
Yeah.
You ever get pulled over to get in trouble? Keep your goddamn mouth shut.
Now on that footage, she makes a couple of comments. One, and I'm paraphrasing, she says they ask her something along the lines, they just ask her what happened, and they said, are you have an experience in this business? She's like, yeah, my father is real. She brings up her father. My father's real, like really known in the business, and I'm just an embarrassment to the family now. And she talks about how she ruined her career and stuff like that. So I'm thinking I'm thinking some of that stuff's gonna come back in court, because it kind of she was almost like taking responsibility for it, because she was saying like, well, he said, well, who are you? This is my said, what's your job here? Well, I'm the armorer, or at least I was. This is what she says, and then she's like, oh, I completely effed up my life forever, my career, blah 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 blah. I know some people have made, and as you know, it gets to social media and they're like, oh, not one mention of the woman that got killed because of you. You're talking about your career.
You know, honestly, I can't lie. That was my thought too. My thought is you're sitting there talking about yourself and your job, yet someone just died.
Someone just died.
I don't know if being self-absorbed and worried about your career is really the right answer at that moment.
Be saying right now, that's what I thought too.
You might want to put that on pause.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Not for nothing. You might want to pause with that one.
I thought the same thing. So we're all in agreement or like-minded like that because I agree. I was like, not the right thing to say to the cops or anyone.
And that goes back to what Kevin and I were talking about, maturity. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe this girl's just super immature and wasn't ready for that position and that authority.
Yeah, she might just be super immature, not ready, because she literally said not one, at least in those clips, not one moment did she didn't even really show remorse for what happened. She felt remorse for herself, because her job I'm an embarrassment.
Much more concerned for my job than this person who just lost their life.
In my career. She's like, my father is one of the greatest who does this. I'm one of the only female armorers in the business, and I just screwed that whole thing up. I'm an embarrassment and blah, blah, everything. I. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what? But here it comes. Here comes the kicker for that. We don't know what her relationship is with her father. Now, she may have gotten.
Well, she sounded like she disappointed him.
Well, that's my point. Her not thinking, her being more concerned about pleasing her father and what she's going to do, the damage she's going to do to his long-built reputation versus the life that was lost. There was a disconnect there. And that has to do with her upbringing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that could say, a ton about the relationship she has with her father, too.
Exactly.
If you really want to get into the whole analyzing it, that could be a lot about the relationship with her dad more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy having you out here, Rich, because you are an investigator. And now when you start digging into stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Now it makes sense.
So
now it starts making sense.
Anytime you want me to come back, don't hesitate. I'd love to come
Rich,
back.
man, definitely. Whenever, I'll definitely call it on you because this is a situation that we will be covering down the line as things come about and develop.
Especially when the trial comes on, there's going to be a lot more conversation. If it goes to trial, if
it goes to trial, I believe it. Do you think it's going to go to trial? I think it is.
You don't know. They might take a plea. If the district attorney's office, right now they're really all got their fangs are out and they want blood. But 2 months from now, after the lawyers all sit down and cooler heads prevail, they might negotiate a plea. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah,
you just don't know with these things. But if it goes to trial, it'll be on the media, and we'll be talking about this.
Oh man, it's gonna be. I think I have a feeling it will, only because I don't know, man. I think the influence of I keep saying blaming the internet. I think the influence of the internet and stuff like that. It's like almost like these people want to do this crap, man. It's like they want to, and I don't know about this district attorney. We don't know if they're looking, did they target Baldwin for a specific reason? You know what I mean? As far as him going after the sexy name, as Ralph mentioned.
It's New Mexico. What's going on in New Mexico right now? Ask yourself that.
The Rust filming. That's it. That's about it. So that makes me believe that it will. I hope it doesn't. I hope they find a resolution to it.
I would love it if they could find a resolution just for everybody's sake. But I don't really foresee it happening. I think it's probably going to wind up going to trial.
I especially since the family seems to have resolved their thing with Baldwin and agreed to let the film continue and stuff like that. So because of that, if I'm seeing that, I'm like, hey, Okay.
What are we here for?
As a prosecution, you kind of look stupid.
Yeah. Why are we here?
Like why are we? The movie's still going on. Nothing stopped.
Right.
Just using the prosecutor's own words, we kind of know what her thoughts are, which is she's like, I'm not going to let some rich elite guy get away with murder.
Yeah.
And she's come pretty straight. She hasn't really been like too obtuse about this. She's come straight out and said, like, I'm sick of elite getting away with stuff, and you're going to be held responsible.
Yeah,
she's. Listen, this is her chance to jump. This is her chance to jump from prosecutor to possibly a congressional or Senate seat. First a congressional seat.
Thinking long term too, exactly, Kevin. You're absolutely right. It's entirely possible. She could be looking long term with this.
No, I think with that being said, wow, that's interesting. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Rich, before we go, man, you actually, it's funny. I got you on air now. We haven't spoken years.
It's been such a long time.
I know cop call. I know cop call counseling. Are you still doing that with the
I don't really do
technical advisory and stuff like that?
No, I don't do anything really when it comes to the movie industry anymore, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I have my own licensed private investigation firm now.
Really?
I work out of New York and New Jersey. I'm licensed both New York and New Jersey.
Right.
I have my private investigation firm, and knock on wood, it's been really successful, and I'm really happy. And I'm actually this year I'm starting a nonprofit where I'm actually going to do investigations for people who are low income and have no money and still need help regarding whether it's a criminal case that they need someone to help them, or missing persons and whatever the case is. So hopefully I get that all off the ground before the year's over, and I'll have a nonprofit where we'll be doing basically the same thing, investigations, but just more to help people.
No, that's awesome, Rich. I mean, now, is it still, you still going by cop call counsel?
Yep. Except it's cop call PI now, cop call private.
PI instead. Okay, private investigations, man. Yeah, listen, Rich, if you want to, let people know where to find you if they need some help,
and
shout it out,
in New York and New Jersey, if you need help, it's Cop Call Private Investigations.
There you go.
You just Google me and you can't miss it. I'm the only one with that name.
Remember,
call a cop if you need help. Cop Call.
I appreciate you, Rich. I'm throwing that out in the chat room too.
Thank you so much.
I've called private investigation, man. Definitely, man. It's good to see you. It's way too long, and I'm definitely, as long as you're available, I'm definitely gonna pull you back in on some stuff that
whatever you ever need. I'm always here for you guys. Never a problem.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man. Everybody, Rich Kenney's in the building.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rich. Coming, bro. Have a good night, Rich.
Talking to you again.
Nice talking to you, Rich.
Meeting you, buddy.
All right, bro.
Nice talking to you, man.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Nice talking to you, man.
There you go, man. Rich, that's my dude, man. That's my dude right there. He's a very, very stand-up guy, man. Very, very stand-up guy. Very, like I said, we were a small production, independent, our first feature, and this man bent over backwards for us. He was, he was giving us, breaks after break after break, money-wise, we talk about, and we, from him, he supplied
Uniform.
weapons, gun props, uniforms.
He helped us get an ambulance, I think.
Yeah. No, he was going to, I think, but we didn't actually use it. We didn't end up having to use it, but he had a connect for that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, he had.
Damn,
so he really,
I like the ambulance, like
yeah, I know we should have used it, right? But he definitely, without him, man, we wouldn't have been able to get through that shoot properly, I think, and I felt good. It had me learn something at an early age about, safety. And I mean, we were all safe anyway, Kev was, on top of things. Jamie, as we had Jamie Miller up here. Jamie, who also, because I believe when we shot in, we didn't bring, because remember, we had no budget.
Shot in the basement.
Yeah, right. We couldn't afford to bring Rich in. We didn't
have Rich in the basement. We had him when we were at Hempstead Lake Park. we brought him out, and when we were shooting there. He came out. Him, as a matter of fact, we did. We had, it wasn't the ambulance. He brought in the EMT guy.
Everything, everywhere, all at once to be not getting some big stuff tomorrow.
I'm saying I said before that it would definitely get original screenplay. It did for the Golden Globes too.
Yeah.
Best original screenplay. I think it won actually for best original screenplay.
Expect that tomorrow. And hey, I'm expecting Angela to get that best supporting actress. I'm expecting that tomorrow.
So wait, the Oscars stuff drops before the SAG?
Well, I mean, it's just the nominations. Just nominations.
Oh yeah, just the nominations.
The actual awards, I think, is like March something, but the nominations is tomorrow morning. But
Auntie. So we're gonna say about that.
Yeah, Angela, she's gonna be in the driver's seat tomorrow. If she gets it, I'm telling you, that's gonna be your winner right there. If she don't get it, it's something ain't right there. Something ain't right.
Well, it really depends on what she's up against, because there's some.
I'm looking at this list of who they think is gonna get nominated. I mean, yeah, I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu will get nominated. I think, if anything, I think Stephanie got the nod over Jamie Lee Curtis, but the other three, yeah, Michelle Williams, yeah, I get that one. Carrie Condon, yeah. I don't know who else you might put into that best supporting actress role. But I don't know about Jamie Lee Curtis for that one, because her role is just so small but very poignant in everything everywhere. But I don't know if she's going to make the final cut.
But you just hit it. That's the key word.
Yeah, because it's really like, for a lot of things that happen to Michelle Yeoh, she's the trigger for it. And they talking like Michelle Yeoh just might get Best Actress tomorrow for that.
Actress nomination.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. I she put a lot into that film, and she had to do a lot, included physically and otherwise. So
that woman is damn near 80 years old and is still doing what she does, man.
Still doing it. I don't know if she's 80.
She ain't damn near 80. She might be in her
60s. But she's
she's definitely Michelle Yeoh is definitely near 70. She's in her mid 60s to mid to late 60s. That woman been around for a very long time.
She's been around for a long time, but she